It's the start of a new year here in the UFC, and we are kicking things off with a bang. And not just a bang in terms of the fights we're going to see on this card, which is, of course, UFC Fight Island 7, but we're going to start things off with history for the UFC, as the main card for this fight card is going to be on cable television on ABC. But Blake, we got plenty of stuff to get into. Welcome to the first UFC show of the new year, maybe besides our 2020 award show, which if you haven't seen it, go check out, because we had debut, we had card, we had knockout, submission, fight and fighter, a bunch of great stuff there that you should check out. Blake, you had some great picks in there too. I will admit, I love some of the awards that you gave out, but man, how you feeling with some of the early cards that we're seeing get put together for this year?
I'm loving it so far. It looks like it's going to be some competitive cards and a lot of knockouts, hopefully.
You're damn right with that one. But let's first talk UFC Fight Island 7. We're going to talk about the first three pay-per-views that are really coming together very nicely for this year with 257, 258, and 259. And also, we're going to talk about if Dana White is going to be able to actually convince Khabib to come back. Is Charles Oliveira already gained a title shot? Also, our 2021 predictions of the top three fights we want to see, and our bold prediction for 2021. But Blake, like I said, let's talk about one of the biggest stories to come out so far this year, that the main card for UFC Fight Island 7 is going to be on ABC TV. How big is this? Not just for the UFC, but for MMA in general.
I think it's a really big step in the right direction in terms of getting, just different kinds of viewership, because now we're going to get a different crowd, the Saturday afternoon crowd, the people that have cable television. So maybe, your upper middle class type folks, maybe some grandparents, something like that, that might just find their way to channel 10 or whatever it might be for you. And keep that channel on for a little bit, once the Price is Right is over or whatever is on that channel, maybe it'll switch on to UFC after that, and then they'll be stuck watching it for a bit because that's just the routine. So we'll see. Maybe it gets some new eyes onto it and grows its popularity even more. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. But it's just good to have it on another network. I think it's just broadening its horizons, really.
And with this, we've seen the UFC what they started on Spike TV. And then we got Fox. Then, of course, huge deal back in 2019 with ESPN and ESPN Plus and all the subsequent stuff with that. And now it's almost like this can kind of set the path to UFC being super mainstream. Like, can we see on the same channels that we see football on? Can we see this on Fox again? Fox is a little bigger now too. Maybe not just FS1, not just FS2, not Fox Sports, but on Fox itself. Maybe we could see it on stuff like CBS, NBC, where they have Sunday Night Football. Like the possibilities of this could be insane, especially if it goes really well. And they picked a great fight to start to put on ABC. And Halloween cater, because it's guaranteed to be fireworks.
Oh yeah, someone's gonna be bloody. Both people are probably gonna be bloody. Let's be honest. I mean, it's gonna be a scrap. So they couldn't have picked. I think they couldn't have picked a better fight. That's not obviously a superstar name like McGregor or someone like that. I think it really is the perfect choice. Two guys that Max has his own viewership in over in Hawaii. Cater is the all-American guy coming up, so probably a bunch of people are going to be rooting for that guy as well. So it's going to be a nice showcase for the UFC to show two guys that really just work super hard and are super skillful, just going at it. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch.
See, and like you said, it's the perfect fight to start with. Like we said, you almost can't go wrong with this, because of course you only have like one kind of chance to, like you were saying, to if there's new eyes looking at this, you really have like one chance to actually kind of like hook them. We don't want to see something that's super quick. Like, remember when UFC they did it was Cain Velasquez against JDS, and this was on like a whole thing on Fox, whereas this fight was going to be like the show. And then what happens? We get Velasquez gets knocked down a minute into the fight, then it's all over. At least we got a full card with this one, and then also this fight, even if it doesn't go the distance, which I doubt, I think it does, but it's going to be so brutal. But let's talk about this card now, Blake. One of the first ones we want to talk about on the main card is Joaquin Buckley getting his first fight of 2020. And, I mean, no offense to Alessio Di Chirico, but it looks like another just easy fight for Buckley. Let's be honest here, because I mean Jericho, he's on a three fight losing streak. He's 0-3 in the UFC. He was a UFC veteran from the show Ultimate Fighter. Thank you, Ross. And he's lost to Kevin Holland, Makhmud Muradov, and Zach Cummings. And Buckley's on kind of a hot streak right now with that giant KO over Impa Kansanya and now that KO over Jordan Wright. Mm-hmm. Or is this going to be a fight?
I mean, I hate saying stuff like that about professionals. I mean, the dude is 6 feet tall, has 74-inch reach. They're going to be coming in right around the same weight. I think it'll be they're going to show up and it's going to be a scheduled fist fight. How competitive it's going to be, I don't know. And these are tricky types of fights too, because hopefully Joaquin isn't thinking similarly to we are, because if he is, then he could be in some trouble. He should approach it as another opportunity for him to showcase his high level of talents and get the job done. I mean, this is a guy on paper, like I feel like the majority of people, unless maybe you're related to the other guy or train with him, you would probably have Joaquin Buckley winning this fight. So if you're a favorite, you need to come out there and handle business. That's what he needs to come out there and do. And I'm intrigued to see if he can do it again, because he's got 2 spectacular knockouts in a row now, and he's riding high on some momentum. So it'll be really, really, really fun to watch if he can do that a third time in a row.
Yeah, like you said, that's a great point. He's going to have to take this thing seriously. I mean, every fight is a fight. Like the NFL term, any given Sunday, any given Saturday during the UFC, or Wednesday, if we're talking about the Neil Magny Mike Chiesa card, which is, of course, going to be at 9 in the morning over for was a Pacific time, folks. It's going to be 12 o'clock for the Eastern time. Oh,
trying to get me in trouble at work, man.
It's worth it. And then this is a huge fight potentially for both fighters. I mean, if you go 0-4 in the UFC, I hate to say it, but Alessio might be fighting for his UFC, career right here. Whereas Joaquin Buckley is fighting, depends on how he wins this one, he might be able to get himself into the top 15, or at the very least have a top 15 fight next after this one. And I like kind of like what the UFC is doing here. It's kind of like a slow build. They know that they have talent in Joaquin Buckley. He hasn't fought like huge names yet, but they're slowly building him. He building up his resume, confidence right here. And they're not just throwing him into the top 15 immediately, not just throwing him into the Sharks of that middleweight division. And I think they're doing the smart thing with this.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened when he ran into Kevin Holland. So you gotta, bring him along. If the UFC notices you have star power, they definitely, I think, do people a little bit of favors. The Greg Hardy situation comes to mind. Even Conor McGregor a little bit. Sean, obviously O'Malley. So I mean, yeah, he's definitely got that star power element, and he might be getting a little bit of lesser opponents up to date, but it's not like he hasn't fought just nobodies. I mean, no. Kevin Holland comes to mind. I don't know his whole record off the top of my head, but I mean, Kevin Holland smoked him. That probably was a big telltale sign for the UFC and Dana White, like, hey, let's take it back just a small step and let him build his confidence back up and see if we can put him in there against the right matchup later.
And then that Kevin Holland was his first fight in the UFC back in August of 2020. And so he started off rough in the UFC, and then his next 2 fights were a little more his level, I guess, or maybe a little less, but they kind of learned from that, of course. I mean, we see what Kevin Holland's doing now. In my opinion, he was Fighter of the Year, so that's not a bad loss to have necessarily. Now, one of the next ones on the card to talk about is Santiago Ponzinibbio. My bad.
Ponzinibbio.
Yeah, that's the one against.
It's a hell of a last name.
Yeah, I mean, it stands out, right? Let's just call him the Argentinian. Was it the Argentinian cutter or blade? Something like the Argentinian blade. I believe is what his nickname is against Jinglang Li. And this is Santiago's first fight since November of 2018. So he's been on the shelf for a little bit. I mean, trying to get these fights, stuff following through in all the above. And he's currently still on the 7-fight win streak. Of course, he last beat Neil Magny with the knockout in the main event of UFC Fight Night 140. That was a card actually took place in his home country of Argentina. So he was in the main event against Neil Magny for that. Of course, Lee, also his last fight was against Neil Magny, who he lost to at UFC 248. So it seems something like UFC's... Santiago's he's a stud. We just haven't seen him for a while, and this could be a great way to kind of get back into the minds of fans across the country.
Yeah, it's almost like a tune-up fight, but nothing to take away from Lee at all. He's definitely a top, maybe not top 5, but top 10, 15 guy in that division. So it's going to be, kind of, I don't want to say a warm-up, but it's going to be a chance for him to get back in the octagon and see, hey, can I still compete at this level? Am I going to want to go higher than this? Like, what's the deal? Is it time for me to get back onto my, championship aspirations and get back onto that road that I was going down before? So it's going to be a big test for him this weekend to see where his level's at. Because how long has it been since he's fought last? It's been
November 2018.
Yeah, that's stupid long.
So 2 years. So 2 years in the month was at about 25 months. He's been gone.
Yeah,
25, 26. That's a lot.
him and Leon Edwards should fight.
It might actually be a good fight. Who knows? But we got that fight. And then the next one is going to be 2 longtime UFC and just MMA veterans in Carlos Condit and Matt Brown. Of course, Condit, fantastic when he was doing his thing, was a WEC champion. Of course, fought GSP for that belt as well. And he is, unfortunately, though, 1-5 in his last 6. Although he has fought just absolute killers leading up to this. He's kind of been that guy that the UFC's put almost like when they're at least in this stage, they were the up and comers, and now you kind of know what you got with them. But this is a fun fight for, I guess, long-time UFC fans and stuff like that. Just 2 huge names. Of course, Matt Brown, storied in the welterweight division with the most knockouts, finishes, and now with this fight this weekend, it will be the most fights in welterweight history. Of course, he last fought and KO'd Miguel Baeza at UFC Jacksonville in May. What can we expect out of this one?
I'm expecting a good fight because Condit in his last fight, he still looked like he's a competitive guy. Maybe not at the highest of levels, like back in his championship days and PED days. But,
hey, PEDs they were a thing back then.
They were rampant back then, so I'm sorry.
Well,
everyone's on steroids.
Well, can't we never forget TRT Vitor.
Right. I don't think you could ever forget that guy.
The closest thing we'll have to Hulk.
He's in my nightmares still. But I expect a fun fight this weekend against basically, I would call them OGs. OGs of the fight game. So hopefully a competitive fight between the 2 of them.
Yeah.
Not really expecting anything too crazy to go down because they're kind of old, but who knows? They're going to throw down though. I know that.
And now, when I was saying the last 6 fights, at least his 5 losses were against just monsters. With the 5 fights in a row was Robbie Lawler, Damian Maia, Neil Magny, Alex Oliveira, and Michael Chiesa. So, not the easiest stretch of fights by any means. And yeah, Blake, you kind of hit the nail on the head where it's just 2 guys that obviously aren't at their prime. They're closer to the twilight of their career. But they can still throw it down, and I'm still
yeah.
I'm still really looking forward to this one, and I'm still excited for this one because, man, it's just two old school MMA fighters, and it's gonna be a great time.
Not at their athletic primes any longer, but they're probably as sharp as they've ever been mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And just game plan wise, it's going to be all about execution that night. Who comes in there and has the cleaner execution? I think that's who's going to win that fight for sure.
I love this one as a co-main. And then going into the main event that we were talking about, Blake, we have number 1 Max Holloway versus number 6 Calvin Kattar. And Calvin Kattar, man, he is nothing to shake a stick at because this guy is a killer. I mean, his last 2 fights have been great. Back-to-back wins. Jeremy Stephens, Danny Gay. He knocked the hell out of Jeremy Stephens, a guy that already has his career murdered by the famous words of Conor McGregor. and now, I mean, Kattar's kind of put the nail in the coffin with him.
Oh, my God, dude. Kattar freaking posted I think it was like a highlight or a picture of that, that sequence against Jeremy Stephens. And I think it was Stephens like on the canvas or something like that. Half the comments are just, who the fuck is that guy? And I'm like, oh my God.
It's impossible. Anytime you see Jeremy Stephens, that GIF. Yeah, hard G. Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, it's hard GIF.
It's a GIF. It's a GIF.
It's a GIF. It's a GIF, Blake. Okay? But I'll forgive you.
Okay, so here one thing I have to say.
Okay.
Alcohol.
Uh-huh.
Gin. Gin. Gin.
See, when I hear it, when I hear GIF, I think of a little moving picture without sound. When I hear GIF, I think of peanut butter, and I love peanut butter, so I can't think of it.
GIF.
But yeah, GIF.
I forgot what we were talking about. Oh,
Max Holloway, man, he's also coming off back-to-back losses with this one. He's actually lost 3 of his last 4 because, of course, he lost Dustin Poirier.
Questionable.
I was going to get into that.
Questionable.
So technically 2 decision losses. The first one back in UFC 245. I saw that one going to Volkanovski. His most recent one, though, I thought he won that fight. I thought he won 48-47. So did you. And we had this big old debate about them when this happened, which was a lot of fun. And now this is kind of a big test right here to see if he can get back into the title shot, because arguably, depending on how Kattar wins, how and if Kattar wins, and then also if Max Holloway wins, the winner of this fight is probably getting a title shot.
Oh, 100%. Because Ortega's already got the next. He's the next in line.
Yeah, that's going to be UFC 258, and then also, and then the top 3 going after that.
So they're literally fighting pretty much right after each other, so it's going to be perfectly lined up. Like the winner of this fight is fighting the winner of that fight. And I would pretty much guarantee. And
then Calvin Kattar would be over the people between Holloway and Kattar. Besides Brian Ortega, that's going to be Chan Sung Jung, Korean Zombie, which of course
he's out of the picture.
Yeah, Brian Ortega just kicked his ass right there. Right, yeah, exactly. Yair Rodriguez and Zabit Magomed Sharipov,
which are MIA.
Which exactly, and so.
They have to fight each other, bro. They shouldn't have any other fight until they fight each other. Like that's. If I was I'd be like, yo, you guys, literally, you're not allowed to fight.
See, what I want right now, Blake, cross our fingers, because we're getting close, hopefully, to the return of Josh Emmett, which of course had a awful knee injury. Also, check our interview with him from a little bit back, right after his fight with Shane Burgos, which also
fight of the year.
I was about to say, according to you, the fans on our fan voting on Instagram and Twitter, that was fight of the year. So, hey, there you guys go. It was a fantastic fight.
Especially for a non-title fight. That's I don't know if there's any non-title fight that beat that.
No. Fight this year. Hands down, no. But Josh Emmett versus Korean Zombie for his return fight.
Man, why are you trying to get Josh set up with these killers, though, dude?
Well, it's because Joshy himself is a killer.
He is. That would be a very. I think he actually has a good shot in that fight too, especially seeing the way that Ortega kind of controlled that fight standing up. Yeah, that would be an interesting fight. I mean, but that's a conversation.
That's right. We got a couple months for that.
We could waste 30 minutes on that conversation. Right? Let's not get started.
But this fight itself, Max Holloway, And Calvin Kattar, how do you see this one going?
This is a really tough draw for Holloway, for a guy that's trying to arguably won his last fight in that title contest.
Should have his belt back.
For him to have to fight Kattar, and he's already beat Ortega, mind you, who's fighting for what should be his.
Well, he not
now.
only beat Brian Ortega, but Brian Ortega was 9-0 going into that fight, and Max Holloway destroyed Brian Ortega in that fight.
He took him out the game for about 2 years.
Yeah.
People were wondering, like, is he done? But
obviously not, because he came back with a vengeance.
Yeah. So it's hard to say how I think this fight's going to go, because I feel like they're kind of similar in some senses. I mean, Max Holloway's super big on volume. I think Kattar's going to hit a little bit harder. And he loves to use those elbows. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing you got to watch out for if you're in the dirty boxing range. And he's a good wrestler as well. He comes from, the Matt Serra team over there. And Holloway, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a really tough night for Holloway. I might be leaning more towards Kattar than I am Holloway, to be completely honest.
Wow.
Just because of how many wars Holloway's already been in. And I think this really could turn into a war. And a 5-round contest with Kattar, that guy, I don't think he's been hurt as much as Holloway. I think they're both shockingly around the same age. But what the hell do I know? I just think it's kind of getting to we've seen recently a lot of these guys that have been at the top for so long are kind of starting to fall.
Well, what's crazy, you're talking about that. I mean, 2 young guys. Max Holloway is only 29 years old, which is crazy to think about. But you're talking about that you don't like him because of all the wars that he's been in. And that's kind of why I'm going to favor him in this fight, just because Calvin Kattar, fantastic fighter. He's been in some tough fights himself, but I don't think he's been in anywhere near what Holloway has done. I mean, just fights with, think of the guys that he's fought. Of course, he lost to Dustin Poirier twice, but that co-main where it was, I believe it was a co-main.
But look at who he lost to. Someone who has really, really sharp boxing.
No, sorry. That was a main event. The Izzy and Gastelum fight was a co-main, but it really, really sharp boxing. But battle with
Calvin Kattar have.
He has some sharp boxing.
Really sharp boxing.
But he's been wars with Dustin Poirier. I mean, he destroyed Brian Ortega. 2 fights with Jose Aldo. He's had fights with Jeremy Stevens, as we mentioned. Cub Swanson, Charles Oliveira. 2 with Volk. Of course, those I wouldn't call those wars. I call them a little tussles, closer to tussles.
The second one, he was really beating some ass, man. I don't get it. He dropped him twice.
I mean, Anthony Perez, Ricardo.
I've never seen someone drop a guy twice and lose a fight. It just doesn't.
Well, actually, you did, because that happened. Believe it or not, those judges. But and the Frankie Edgar too. That was a great fight, man. And I just love what Max Holloway. I mean, the most significant strikes in pretty much UFC history. He has some of the most significant strikes in his last fights or whatever. He always lands those. I mean, this fight, no matter who wins, it's going to be bloody. It's going to be brutal. And I see it going going all 5 rounds in just one giant scrap fest. It's going to take something
special to knock, to take one of those guys out.
Both those guys have fantastic chins.
Yeah.
They don't get knocked out. They hardly get rocked. And so I see it's going to be a close decision. It's probably going to be like a 48-47, but with Holloway taking this. But if Calvin Kattar wins, I'm not going to be surprised in the least with this one.
It's just, it's just a matter of time. That guy he's a stud, man. So both of these guys are freaking phenomenal. I think and like I said, starting with this, I think the UFC picked 2 phenomenal guys, like not only just the fighters themselves, but at least from what they portray, how they conduct themselves during interviews and the way they, interact with other people that we get.
We all know Max Holloway too.
Those guys, they just look like such stand-up, family man guys. You just couldn't be happier for dudes getting, fatter pockets and getting some more notoriety.
Right. Also, shout out to was a Mini Blessed. That guy.
Ooh.
One of my favorite people
He's
in
a
the
fun
MMA
one.
community. He's awesome.
Fun guy to watch for
And of
sure.
course, I mean, just real quick, want to make the note that we thought Holloway won his second fight with Alexander Volkanovski. That was also with only practicing with his coaches over Zoom calls. Not one in-person training session, and he arguably won. So I would like to see what he can do here. And then what's great about this one too, with this whole week of cards that I want to talk about before we get into our next subject, we UFC Fight Island 7, 8, and UFC 257. We are going to see the return of fans at Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, and we're going to see about 2,000 people for each of the fights. Of course, I mean, typical MMA or UFC fights probably seeing like between 10 to 20,000. 20 is some of the heaviest there at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas.
Shoot, Australia had what? Was that New Zealand or Australia?
It was Australia. That was at the
50,
Marvel
60?
Stadium. Then also the one that GSP card in Canada with like 45, 50.
Man,
we're not going to get that. Not going to get that, but at least
dude, but still 2,000 people to watch a fist fight. That's a lot. I think about when you went to school.
That's a lot of people.
You know, there was maybe like 300 of you.
2,000 people can
around.
make some noise, man. 2,000 people
is going to be all right. It's going to be just fine.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's no like Irish, it's no Canadian, it's no English. I'll give them a lot of credit. No American, no Brazilian crowd. I mean, we're probably not going to see the same sort of people and fans in the Middle East.
Dude, you might see some crazy. So I was watching
some really expensive tickets too. So
I was watching on CSN California. They had this. It was after a Kings game, super random. I was like dozing in and out of sleep, and I see all of a sudden this kickboxing comes on. I'm like, what the hell? And there's people like dancing on tables and stuff, and doing all this crazy stuff, having feasts, and it turns out they're in Abu Dhabi. And they're doing kickboxing fights. I can't remember what the heck organization it was. But man, it looked like they were doing like the dancing and just the instruments and just a bunch of people in robes and stuff. It looked like it was a pretty fun time.
Well, man, I don't know. I can't wait for this. But speaking of UFC 257 though, Blake, let's talk about these first 3 pay-per-views of the year that the UFC is building on, because they're loaded. There's no other way to put this. They're absolutely stacked. Of course, UFC 257, when we get the main event of Conor versus Dustin 2, which is something. The UFC does such a great job with their promo videos. They never miss with those. I'm so ready for that. Then we got the co-main now of Michael Chandler and Dan Hooker, which is going to be a scrap. Then UFC 258 right now, we have Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns finally rescheduled. Hopefully it actually happens this time. Otherwise, we're going to have a third curse fight on our hands. And the co-main is all pretty much confirmed with Volkanovski and Brian Ortega fighting for that belt. Ortega, hey, then welcome back to the UFC. Second fight back in 2 years. You're going to get a title shot.
Ortega had a choice.
Yeah, I love this, though.
How many years ago did Ortega have a choice?
Was it 2, 3?
10 years ago?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Modelio.
Oh, man.
What choice is he going to make? Is he going to choose to beat Volkanovski, or is he going to choose to lose to Volkanovski?
Are you talking about Modelo commercials right now?
Yeah, dude, that's who he's sponsored by.
I know, I love it, though. Shout out to John Anik, Modelo, brewed for those with a fighting spirit.
Who is Volkanovski sponsored by? I don't even know if he's...
What's a Australian beer? I don't know. You probably know more about this than me. So
Foster's?
Foster's. Modelo versus Foster's. It's going down. UFC 258. This is the real fight right here, Blake. The real fight.
I'm going with Modelo, bro. Modelo. I can do Modelos.
Hey, I don't drink, but just off of commercial value. Hey, the Modelo commercials are nice. Also, my boy John Anik.
Stipe was back. He was a Modelo boy back in the day.
Oh yeah. I mean, Amanda Nunes, Modelo.
Modelo.
Hey, they only got killers. I got side with Modelo on this one. But and then the one I want to talk about the most, so man, UFC 259 is it has 3 title fights already. We have, of course, the main event's going to be Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya, which is one, oh boy, I can't wait for. I cannot wait for this one. I'm just going to tell you right now, if I had to bet, I'm going with the Polish Power Jan Blachowicz. Then we're also getting Piotr Jan in his second title defense. Remember, or was his first title defense, second title fight, because in the last one he murdered Jose Aldo. Absolutely destroyed that man. And we get him against a guy that finally gets his due.
Was that for the vacant title, or was that?
It was for the vacant title, yeah, because that was when Triple C retired. So his first title defense against a guy that really deserves an Aljamain Sterling. So fantastic to see this. And then we also get, at least we get to see Man Nunes again. I'm not sure if, no offense, but to Megan Anderson, but I don't know if this is a huge matchup. But hey, you never know. Megan has all the ability to go out and surprise us, but also it's going to be tough. She has the size. She definitely has the size, but it's always going to be tough when you're going against the greatest women's fighter of all time. So no matter who you are, no matter how good you are, it's always going to be a tough night at the office for this one. But Blake, just really early picks for this one. How excited are you already for a card that is still 2+ months away?
I mean, I'm excited. I don't have picks for you right now, though. That's a little crazy.
Tell me. It's what we do on the show, Blake. Make your picks right now.
We don't even have, we don't even know if they're gonna get COVID or yet not.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, Blake. I'm telling you right now. Nunes, Aljo, Blachowicz.
I would definitely go Adesanya, Jan, and Nunes.
Hey, that's fair. I'm taking the favorites there. Good for you. You're really, really good at this one. Really taking the fun out of this, Blake, but it's okay. I respect that. But
that's just who I think is going to win. I think Adesanya has to win that fight if he wants to fight
John Jones.
Going. I think Jan's going to win that fight too, because he's just a better. I think he's going to knock his ass out, to be honest.
Ooh, man, I would hate to see that against Aljo. Hate to see it.
And then Nunes, the GOAT. Why are you going to go against the GOAT?
Yeah, there's no need to. there's no need. And then one of the next things we want to talk about is something that kind of correlates with UFC 257, everything going on in the lightweight division. Also with one of our next stories is Dana White is meeting with Khabib Nurmagomedov at Fight Island, and he's going to pressure him hard for one last fight. Now, Blake, what are the odds that we actually see Khabib competing in UFC Octagon again? Does he go for win number 30? Does he?
I just hope he does whatever he in his heart and his family supports. Whatever he wants to do and whatever his family is okay with him doing. Because he doesn't owe us anything else. I mean, he's done everything that he's set out to accomplish. And clearly GSP doesn't want that fight. I mean, let's stop. Let's just stop with the tomfoolery already.
Remember when we were talking in one of our UFC talks like a few weeks ago, how GSP was going to have an announcement for the new year, and his announcement, joining a new team, posted a picture of him like with sparring, and he joins up with was it Coors Light Zero?
It was like a 0% alcohol for Bud Light or
Coors Light, but. That was one of the most disappointing things I've seen in my life.
But I mean, that just reinforces my point, though. Like, let's let him just do his own thing.
Exactly. This fight's not going to happen, and if it does, hey, cool. But it's not. So let's just stop talking about it because we don't want to get our hopes up. And then another big fight. That, at least for Charles Oliveira, he and his manager, Diego Lima, not the Diego Lima, the other one, Diego Lima, coach and manager, is really being vocal for a Charles Oliveira title fight because, of course, 8 wins in a row. He dismantled Tony Ferguson for Tony's second loss in a row. Second awful loss in a row, but we already talked about that one. Don't need to bash him over the head. But, I mean, what do you think about this? Does he deserve a title fight? Or is this someone reaching? Is this just a manager being a manager? What do you see in this one?
I think his manager is being a good manager. Let's get that out the way first and foremost. I think he's doing the right thing, standing by his fighter and fighting for what he feels he deserves. And honestly, let's be honest. He deserves a title shot, sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, he beat Tony Ferguson, a guy that pretty much was an automatic title shot up until I mean, really the Gaethje fight and
Mm-hmm.
what happened when he beat Tony. He got a title shot. Pretty much anyone that's beat Tony deserves a title shot, right? So, because not many people do it, especially in the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is now there's been a joker kind of thrown in that deck of cards, right? The joker is always going to be Conor McGregor. Whatever division he goes to, whether it be welterweight, featherweight, lightweight, doesn't matter. He's the joker in that division. I mean, he's the draw no matter where he's fighting. It could be boxing, right? He goes over and fights Floyd, he's a draw. So that's the only thing that he has going against him right now. Not to mention another champion came over from another organization, Michael Chandler, and is fighting for pretty what seems like almost another title eliminator match against Dan Hooker. So there's a few things kind of working against Charles Oliveira. I just think it doesn't ever really do anyone any favors to play hardball with the UFC, especially Dana White, because he's very much a guy where he'll just say F you.
He'll make you pay.
Yeah, and do whatever the hell he wants and spite you for it, for years on end. I mean,
it's not like he has to give you a title shot. He has plenty of other fighters that could make a good fight.
Like, lightweight division is not the division to start getting greedy and to start demanding things, because you can get passed up in an instant. There's too many good guys at the top there. So I think whatever fight that they want him to do, and it's looking like it's the Gaethje fight, take that fight, win that fight, you get a title shot. I guarantee.
And that's a tough fight too, stylistically, for Justin Gaethje. I mean, of course,
especially because Oliveira is a big guy. I didn't realize that guy is big. He's
pretty big, and that obviously his ground game is almost unmatched, and pretty much unmatched by anyone in that division except for Khabib. And he put Tony Ferguson to work. Oh man, that arm bar. Still, I'm always gonna remember that arm bar when he tucked the arm in. Just.
I had to look away.
Tough stuff right there.
I probably looked away with, I think, two or so seconds left. I just couldn't do it.
I really don't blame you with that one.
That's something that I'm very that gets me uneasy, is just like breaking of bones and stuff like same. You ever watch that show back in the day, MTV, Scarred, I think it was called?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen enough of these where I just don't care at this point. But and then for Gaethje, obviously we almost never see him on the ground. And then the one time we did see him on the ground, he got embarrassed. He got dominated. Of course, he got dominated by arguably the greatest wrestler in MMA history, arguably the greatest fighter in MMA history.
But he was supposed to be the great equalizer.
Yeah, so it's really weird this. And then it's not like Charles' stand-up is bad. He beat up Tony in the stand-up too. But Justin Gaethje, obviously, I'm going to give Justin Gaethje, he has a stand-up advantage because he just has concrete fists that are quick as lightning. And he has a chin like no other. But on the ground game, that goes to Charles. So that would be a fantastic matchup to see.
Great fight.
Stylistically. So I want that. It looks like Conor and Dustin might actually be for the belt. It probably would be told by now, but depends on this meeting with Khabib. It really does. And then we get Hooker and Chandler. It might be the winner of McGregor and Dustin and Hooker and Chandler fight for the belt if it's vacated. That wouldn't be a stretch, and I would not be opposed to that. But the thing with this situation, Blake, is Chael Sonnen made a fantastic point about Charles Oliveira. His manager is doing all this talking, but what's Charles Oliveira doing? Nothing. He's not backing this up. He's not saying this. And then normally when you see this, you see a manager start the conversation, then you see a fighter step in to carry it on. And Charles Oliveira hasn't said squat about this. So is it a fighter not knowing how to promote themselves? Or is it just, it's kind of a weird situation, this.
They're probably on the same page or something. I'm not too privy to that situation myself. But that's the moves you got to be making, right? If you're in a position that Charles is in, you got to start making noise somehow. Put your name in the hat. No one's just going to give that the fight to you. You got Conor McGregor in your division now. You got Khabib possibly retiring, possibly coming back. You need to freaking make some noise. Get people saying your name, like Beyonce, and freaking, get the people going, get them excited, get people wanting to see you fight. No one's going to, just because you're one of the scariest and most dangerous guys in the division, that doesn't mean anything really, especially to casuals. You got to do something outside the norm of, just being a businessman. You gotta get people excited. And I don't think Oliveira's in his whole career besides maybe bleaching his hair, done anything exciting.
No, it's weird.
Besides his fighting, of course. His fighting is very exciting.
Yeah.
Let's make that clear.
Oh, let's make that perfectly clear. And then you used to be able to get away a number of years ago in MMA and UFC. You used to be able to get away with just being a really good fighter. But now that's not the thing anymore. Everyone's a great fighter. And so what really puts you aside, really puts you into title fights and headlinings and pay-per-views and stuff like that, is not what you do in the octagon. Of course, that's super important because you need to be able to back up what you say. But you have to be entertaining. Conor McGregor, I mean, for all the people that hate on him, he does the perfect thing. He really did perfectly because he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. And he's also one of the greatest showmen of all time. And you have to be able to sell yourself outside the octagon to really put yourself in these situations. So Charles Oliveira might need to work on that. Maybe not go as far as Colby Covington does.
Yeah, don't go the MAGA route. But
that's like the whole opposite end of the spectrum. But maybe happy medium. Maybe like not just don't get too out of yourself, but you got to go a little bit and do something like what Glover Teixeira is doing. Glover, just put your name in the mix. What Glover is doing is, of course, we had the Blachowicz Izzy fight, and Glover Teixeira went, okay, he told Dana, he's like, pretty much, yeah, I'll be the backup for this fight then. For if anyone pulls out with this, I'll be the backup for this. Which is, I mean, that's just a vet move right there. Charles Oliveira learned from the vet in Glover Teixeira because he's doing the right thing with that one.
Not a bad idea right there.
Hey, never hurts to just throw your name out there. But Blake, let's end this thing with our 2021 kind of predictions, kind of foresight, kind of what we want to see in this year. And let's give out, I want to hear your top 3 fights that we need to see this year.
Sure. Okay, so I went number 1 that I want to see, Conor McGregor versus Justin Gaethje. I just think that fight, I mean, really enough said once you announce the names. They're not going to be doing any wrestling, any touching of each other on the ground. It's going to be fist flying. So that would be really cool. Maybe if somehow if Conor beat Dustin, and I don't know if Gaethje is going to have a fight or not, but it could line up. It really has a potential of happening this year, I think.
And Conor actually had to take this fight this time.
Yeah, right. Number 2 fight I'd like to see Jon Jones, and this could be an either or. Personally, I'd rather see him fight Ngannou just because awe factor, and Ngannou is just a physical specimen. But I mean, you could really replace it with Stipe too, and I'd be just as happy. Just like a little boy on Christmas. And I mean, obviously that's just because it's the greatest, quote unquote, the greatest of all time. In my opinion, probably the greatest of all time. Just looking at the dude, I mean, I don't know. I don't think you can find one person in the world that would want to fight Jon Jones. And yeah, him going to heavyweight to fight either Stipe or Ngannou, I just think that would be a spectacle.
Yes.
And then number 3, my third fight that I'd like to see, a little bit of bias in this maybe.
No bias. We don't have bias on the show. Nothing. No.
Cody No Love versus Deiveson Figueiredo, however you say his name, Deiveson Figueiredo.
Okay.
Figgy, we'll call him.
Oh, that'd be a slugfest. Someone's going out. Someone's going out.
I mean, there's already been some heated exchanges between these two.
This fight was pretty much supposed to happen too.
Yeah, I think Cody was calling him like Golem or something like that.
I could see Cody saying something like that.
I'd love to see that fight too. Those 3 fights right there get me jazzed up.
Oh, that would be some great stuff. I always wanted to see the Conor Gaethje matchup. Now, for me, one of the fights I need to see is in the welterweight. It's going to be Usman, although I would love to see Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington rematch. I think it's very well deserved. It would be a great one. But most importantly, the fight that needs to happen for all the talking, all the smack, and all the backstory, Blake, it has to be Jorge Masvidal against Colby Covington. Former teammates, not anymore. Pretty pretty much ex-lovers. Now they divorce and hate each other. And from the lead up to this fight, the press conferences, the Twitter, back and forth, the fight itself, I think all of that would be just phenomenal. I would love to see this one in 2021.
It's too bad they're not tough coaches, man. I think that's a missed opportunity there.
Well, we're still waiting on the tough coaches to be announced, which sucks.
I know, it's just so annoying.
Just make you have it perfect. Just make Colby Covington and worry about all the tough coaches.
So
that's such good TV.
Have they announced any of the details about this season?
It's going to be welterweight. It's going to be bantamweight.
But now, in terms of like airing, is it going to be streaming on ESPN Plus on certain days?
Yeah, it's going. I'm not sure if it's going to be live on certain days, but I know it's going to be ESPN Plus thing.
Okay.
I just can't.
I was wondering if they're going to put it on like actual ESPN or not, like how it always used to be on Fox.
I hope so. That'd be really cool. But
I wonder if it was going to make it actually onto TV, because I have ESPN Plus. If you need to watch that shit, I got you too.
Hey, to all you fans.
No, not all the fans. You guys got to pay me.
Hey, if you want access to Blake's ESPN Plus account, go over to
Patreon.
Patreon.com/4thandlong. Become a $5 a month member, and you can get access to ESPN Plus.
Speaking of prices, dude, I don't think we touched on this.
The UFC pay-per-view price.
UFC pay-per-view prices have gone up. ESPN Plus subscriptions have gone up. Prices have gone up. And Dana White's comment got me real scared about streaming. Even though I would never do that. But
we don't stream fights here. That's illegal,
for the
Blake.
people that do that, aren't blessed to be in my economic situation.
Oh, you bum! You're calling me out.
I never ever stream ever. I swear to God, never done it. Never.
I don't even know what is streaming, Blake.
Nothing. Never heard of it.
I only go through ESPN Plus and pay $59.99. Now
I'm just wondering though, like what's this trick he has up his sleeve that he's got that he's going to be pulling out for everyone? He seemed like pretty confident about it.
I can't. We all had. Of course, I don't stream, but Crack Streams has recently gone down.
Dunzos.
So.
Can't even watch NFL on it anymore.
Can't even watch NFL.
Thanks a lot, Brendan Schaub. Probably ruined that one too.
Oh, I hate Brendan Schaub so much. Brendan Schaub, come on the show and defend yourself, you punk. So
yeah, take us out to Food Truck Diaries or whatever the hell.
Hey,
spar you afterwards. Ross, you're closer to his weight class though. You got to do it.
I'll take one for the team. I'll do it for the views. Anything for views. Like I said, I've already gone on statement on the show and say that I'll get my lights put up by Mike Tyson for views.
Don't encourage him. if that opportunity ever presents itself, let's all just dislike that one.
Well, it's because Blake, you say that because you know I would do it.
Well, you're talking to the guy that lets you choke him out.
Yeah,
when he's drunk, so
that's fair, and that's a true story, you guys. If you want to hear more about that, we should be doing a Q&A sometime in the near future. So
we could put that on the Patreon.
We put that on the Patreon 100%. Me and Blake will do a little story time with Ross and Blake. We'll put that on the Patreon only, and then you could get access to that for just $1 a month. So there you go.
That was during a UFC card too. So
it was during the Ferguson and. That was the Ferguson Cowboy. That was Jessica I and Valentin Shevchenko.
Oh, wow.
And then the main event was Moraes and Cejudo. That was that card back a couple summers ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised I remember that. Man, I am a genius. But Blake, going on from the wow, that was one hell of a tangent. But Masvidal and Covington needs to happen. My next one that I want to see is Dana White is kind of put a little bit down in my mind, but I still want to see
Dana White versus Jake Paul.
Dana White versus the founder of Crack Streams.
Amanda Nunes versus Jake Paul.
I would bet Amanda Nunes $1,000. I bet.
That's probably my number 4 fight I want to see.
Give me Amanda Nunes versus Jake Paul.
Nunes and Jake Paul.
But the one I actually want to see, which might seem like a fight that's a little more out there, but give me Nick Diaz versus Tony Ferguson in 2021.
You changed it from Nate to Nick.
I changed it up on you.
From Nate to Nick.
Well, it's because I need to throw you off, Blake, because it's Nate in Ferguson's going to be great. I would love to see that. But I want to see Nick Diaz back inside the UFC octagon. And he put on one hell of a scrap against Tony Ferguson, and that'd be one hell of a first fight back. But man, I'd be lying if I did not want to see that one. Okay, that would be a spectacle in the least. Then my last one that I want to see, of course, I really want to see just from a physical matchup of Jones versus Ngannou. really want, stylistically, that is the fight we all need to see. But I want to see what could be the biggest fight of all time, the fight that could actually determine the GOAT of MMA. Get the greatest heavyweight, undisputed greatest heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic, against the undisputed greatest light heavyweight, arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time, in John Jones. And that just writes itself. We can see, I feel like with how good, I was talking about this earlier, how good the UFC marketing team is at making these hype videos and promo packages. I could see a promo package between a piece of paper and a stick, and they can make me want to watch it. They can make me want to pay $69.99. Good luck with that. But theoretically, they can make me want to pay that to watch that fight. Imagine what they can do with this. I mean, the story just writes itself right there. And so it would be absolutely fan-frickin-tastic. And I really want to see this one. But Blake, last point of the show. Your bold prediction for 2021.
All right, my bold prediction for 2021. Are you ready for it?
I am ready for this.
Conor McGregor has a belt around his waist again in the UFC.
I don't like it.
That's just good for business, though.
It is.
Mark my words, that's what's going to happen. He's going to have a belt.
Bigger question here, Blake. Does Conor McGregor actually defend the belt for the first time in his career in 2021? Can we increase the boldness? Can we make it from just bold to absolutely flaming hot?
I mean, I don't think it would be possible for this year, because that would mean you'd have to fight like 3 times.
3 fights in the year. Hey, Conor did want to do that in 2020. We have a motivated Conor McGregor now, Blake, and we all know what motivated Conor McGregor means.
But they want to have fans there when Conor's fighting. So I think they want to have as least amount of fights that take place with Conor with
so just 2?
Little to no crowd.
He gets 2
as possible. Well, we don't know that, because I mean, a lot could change, especially in the U.S. With these vaccinations starting to roll out. We don't know what the landscape's going to look like come 6 months from now. So a lot could be changing. Right now, it's 2,000 or so in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Come 6 months from now, you might be able to do, about half to 75% of whatever stadium you're trying to fill up. Who knows what you're going to be able to do then?
So to go off this, Blake, to really solidify the boldness, who does Conor beat for the belt?
I think he's going to beat Dustin Poirier, and then the Khabib talk with Dana makes it interesting. I don't know what's going to come of that. I don't know. I still
because
think
Khabib doesn't want to fight anyone. Because there's no fresh fight for him. Yeah. That's the thing he said. He wants a fight that he's never had before.
So there's 2 routes. There's still 2 routes for McGregor to go there. Either Khabib comes back, right, and that rematch is on the table as long as he beats Poirier. He has all of this goes out of the window if he doesn't beat Poirier. So
Magic Dustin just wins now.
Right. So then Khabib, he can come back. That's for the belt. He could beat Khabib, prove everyone wrong and make that right, in his legacy. Or Khabib stays retired, belt's vacated. The next fight's going to be probably the winner of Gaethje versus Oliveira, if that fight happens, or it's going to be, either versus Gaethje or Chandler or Hooker. So I think and then that's going to be obviously the fight for the belt. And then once that's done, you're probably already in the latter part of 2021, I would assume. I think there's no way you could get another fight in there, just because that's just a lot of,
that's fair. Now, for me, on the other hand, Blake, my bold prediction for UFC in 2021 is that Gilbert Burns will be defending his title at least one time this year. You heard that right. Gilbert Burns, with this prediction, not only will Gilbert Burns be dethroning Kamaru Usman at UFC 258, I think he also defends his belt at least once this year, whether it be against a guy like Colby Covington or Jorge Masvidal.
What did you just call him?
Oh man,
You call him Tubby
That was one hell of a slip up.
Wovington, what did you say?
I don't know. I got a little
Oh my
tongue tied there,
God.
Blake. I need to do more enunciation exercises, I guess, man. It's a tough night, man. It's a tough night. First day back to school. Gotta love that college life. But hey,
you're doing a great job.
imagine Blake so normal bold prediction is that Gilbert Burns will be defending his belt once this year. Super bold prediction if I want to go all the way out there, because that's what we do on the show, Blake. We make bold predictions. You see me on our NFL stuff too. It's always bold. Gilbert Burns will be defending his belt against Khamzat Chimaev. Let's just think about that for now. I know it's probably not going to happen, but if it does happen, Blake, I mean,
it could, because Leon. Right? Is that who he's supposed to fight, right?
Yeah, and that fight, hopefully, I guess now February. Dana just wants to keep pushing until we get that fight, because I mean it's a great fight. I want to see it.
It's really great for Khamzat.
Oh, so good. Because if Khamzat wins that, he's probably a title challenger.
Yeah, he's probably getting the title fight.
So he's going to win that fight against in other words. He's going, and then he's going to challenge for the title. Gilbert Burns is going to be Kamaru Usman, and then that fight's going to happen, Blake. It's going to happen this year. That is my bold prediction for UFC in 2021.
That's not bad.
That's what we do.
I don't know if it's even that bold. It could be pretty,
Wow. Conor McGregor again, but okay. All right, fine. Hey, for everyone listening, of course, drop your bold takes for UFC 2021, whether it be in the comments of this on YouTube, whether it be in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or whether it be on Twitter or Instagram. Just let us know what you'd like to see out of 2021 this year. What do you think is really going to happen, and whose take is the hottest? But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it for us today. Of course, like I said, with your hot takes, all comments from any topic that we cover in this show, let us know what you think. Of course, check us out, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, www.thefourthandlong.com. But Blake, thank you so much for joining us here today. Pleasure to have you on. If you guys haven't listened to it, check out our plethora of UFC interviews that feature Justin James, that feature Sasha Platnikov, Josh Emmett, and Corey McKenna, a bunch of really great fighters. Sam Alvey right there too. Fantastic stuff. Also, check out our 2020 awards show with that stuff. And also, just to thank our Patreon sponsors today, let's thank $5 donor Ray Rodriguez for all your card needs. Follow at Big Bat Box on Instagram. Let's thank Ryan Watson and Neil Wiley. Check out his YouTube, Chosen Problems. And Blake, that's going to wrap it for us. Hopefully, these bold predictions come through. But you, my man, enjoy watching your UFC on ABC this weekend.
I sure will. Thank you, man.